what is technically consciousness? As we psychologists or the mental health professionals talk about it, what consciousness is? Is it just the awareness of the existence of one's own self and the existence of the external world? Obviously, there is an individual and there's an external world. And recognition of the existence of both the entities, the individual and the external world, is the consciousness. We have sensory organs which obviously gathers sensory data, and that data being gathered at some brain center, and then we comprehend it, and then we categorize that sensory data into different categories, and then we store it into our memory, and then obviously whenever we need that data we used to retrieve it using obviously different cues, and that is a, you can say, a process which is going on all the time. But when we talk about the consciousness which is being evaluated and elaborated by the philosopher Hegel in his one of the most important and for some the most difficult book of philosophy, and the title of that book is Phenomenology of Spirit. And with spirit he means something more of a soul, not just the soul, and soul means at his time the soul means the mind. Mind means the mental processes, and the mental processes means obviously the sensory data and the comprehension of that sensory data, and obviously categorization of that sensory data into different under different labels and different concepts. So more or less we can compare the consciousness being understood by the mental health professionals and the consciousness which Hegel was talking about. It appears that Hegel was seeing consciousness in a broader sense. And with the broader sense means that like he's relating the human existence, and with that consciousness part, without that consciousness, and that consciousness also means recognitions of one's own self. So means without recognizing existence of one's own self, obviously an individual does not exist. So consciousness is that important. So why we are different from like obviously other beings and the other forms of living life, because we are the human beings. They have obviously more sophisticated, developed sensory organs, and with the help of those sensory organs, we have developed what the insight learning, intuitive learning, and we are now in a better position to analyze and assess the environment, the external world. And even Hegel named that phenomena as the absolute spirit, when the subjective consciousness and the consciousness of the external world, they coincides at some points when everything is being revealed, everything is now in the light of consciousness, everything is now visible to everybody, and everybody could understand what it is. That is technically the exact essence of the human spirit, and that is not just the mental processes with the spirit. Hegel has this thing that this whole human life is basically, the human existence is basically the the spirit. So, if we could compare the scientific investigations, and the Hegel's philosophical orientations, where obviously he invented a dialectic system of philosophy, where there's a thesis, there's an antithesis, and there's a synthesis, and that these are all parts of what, when we are going for some inquiry, some investigation about a phenomena in consciousness, the thesis, whatever I think about some aspect, some state of life, some some life phenomena, and obviously there's an antithesis could be there, and when we go for any reconciliation about what the thesis is saying, and if there is an antithesis, after that antithesis, if we could come to a conclusion, so we obviously we will go for some synthesis, and then that synthesis even serve as a thesis for some more antithesis, and that goes for another synthesis, and this process obviously goes on and on. With my little understanding and insight, I could say that this dialectic system in itself is having a scientific approach. That is obviously, you have to investigate the phenomena of consciousness while interacting obviously with the objective world, with the external world, and coming to obviously new body of knowledge after this process of going for a thesis and facing an antithesis, and then there would be a synthesis. So this whole process goes on and on. So we could say that the comparison is more or less okay, and apparently it is scientific, and we may go into detail about pure scientific investigation. Pure means with experiments and with the researches, and obviously what Hegel merely comes after, obviously after dipping into some sea of consciousness, and coming up with his own solutions about consciousness. All the best.